So we're going to be dealing with life themes, and what I had done was assess people for about 20 years, but I dealt with their motivations. And that's where I started. I had an authentic motivation, which means remember it's on the feeling side, as the cause, and the synthetic motivation, which simply means that it's the synthesis of everything you are in this moment in time. So all of your life experiences, your physical life experiences, have accumulated into this moment. So you're always synthesizing all your life experiences into who you are. But the authentic side is the abstract side of just ideas and your morality, your moral feeling. And over here, wait. Oh. The emotional effect. And that's all I dealt with. So one day I was with Jonathan, and so you explained what happened that day when it came to the idea of archetypes.
Yeah, as you well know, so I, as a justice life theme myself, I notice patterns pretty readily. So when I looked at a list of all the authentic motivations that you discovered in other people, I kind of got a hint of a pattern. But I was unsure, so I presented the question to you. Would these authentic motivations that you have found thus far fit under 4 primary attributes, or at the time we didn't have the term theme.
Right.
And specifically that was love, justice, wisdom, and power.
And where'd you get it from?
That's from a religious perspective, using symbology from the Bible, and how there's a template for God, if you will, that he has handed down to man through, well, not through, but which are his universal cardinal attributes, which would be love, justice, wisdom, power, which finds its expression through humans. So obviously I didn't want to make this a religious course, so what I needed to do is find validation. And believe it or not, I found quite a bit in many of the philosophy books and psychology books that I've read. And what we're dealing with is philosophers and especially medieval thinkers really dealt with the power which was God, but then justice, wisdom, and love as the others. And that was their topics. Also, in the time of when the pharaohs ruled in Egypt, and they would embalm people, they would have 4 vessels to hold the organs of those who were embalmed, and they were guided by and guarded by the love, justice, wisdom, and power gods. So this whole idea really does go back a couple of thousand years, and more importantly, there's been research of the American Indian having the same 4 in their description of what it means to be human. And this is pervasive. Then I asked Jonathan if you could even find more, and he did. And this is just the idea of validating the 4. And that is the universe has 4 different types of energy. The physical forces are 4. Matter has 4 products, 4 dimensions in space, 4 base elements, 4 blood types, but also 4 types of amino acids, which is responsible for all creativity. So the 4 was well established, and it went a little further. Why is it that we have 4 corners of the earth when we have a round globe? Why is it we have 4 seasons when we really don't? It's a gradation of seasons. And so you find this notion of 4 everywhere. So the next step was to look at the love, justice, wisdom, and power, and go through the philosophers and find out that is exactly what they're talking about. Yeah.
can I ask a question? To my mind, if there's 4 variables, they often are lined up 1, 2, 1A and 2A, so that you can, they are diametrically opposed. And I don't know if that's the way you're presenting these concepts or not.
No, that's different.
Okay.
I'll get to that right now, sure. So we discovered through the philosopher Schopenhauer that there are 4 types of motivation. And the first one is of being, and which it conforms to love, of knowing, conforming to wisdom, of becoming, and which is the justice, and of action, which is power. Okay. So you have the sense of being, of who you are authentically, your feelings, and then it moves into of justice, which has 2 aspects. It has a sense of being and it has a sense of knowing. But going much further than we need to right now. Then this interacts with the of knowing and of action. So, for example, the people who are dominated by the love quadrant, they report the condition of humanity. For example, people are starving, or we need to protect the planet, things like that. Animal rights. That's these people here. Once they make the assessment, then the justice people come along and they have empathy, which enables them to connect with these people and say, wait a minute, let me take a look at that and see if you really have a complaint. So they do, and they say, yes, I think you're right. We need more laws regarding animal rights. Then they go to the wisdom people. The wisdom people look up the information and solve the issue. But they're not the people who actually instigate them. You have to go to the power people. So the power people take on what the wisdom people discovered and then come back to the love people and say, did it work out? So we do that on a social level, but each of us in this room have all 4 also. But one dominates the other 3. Because we all do it. We all care for people and we want things to be fair. We need to go out in the world and learn, and we have to be in action to solve problems. We all do that. But there's a type of people also that belong to each quadrant. So this is how they relate, to answer your question.
Thank you.
Yeah. What else? I have to humbly apologize for my writing. It's getting worse. So, from this, though, we discover a great many things. For example, when I do my assessments, I discover which quadrant really dominates that person, where are their talents and skills, what type of careers they should be involved with. Also, these do have relationships. For example, the wisdom and the power people do get along. But power and justice seldom get along. And so if you have a power and justice people are married, you're probably going to have a lot of conflict. In fact, that's happened so far in all of the clients I've had. But when I had the wisdom and power, they got along very nicely. And then love and justice get along. And the justice and the wisdom can get along. But there's other factors that I'm not considering here. This is just, the theme is just the beginning. It's the archetypes.
So you're saying, so there's a person's theme, but within that theme there are variations?
There's factors. For example, we had the, well, in fact, it's in the workbook. Okay. So let's say we do have a wisdom person. And their authentic motivator is theoretical knowledge, but they have a holographic process. So this is the authentic motivator right here, but this is the authentic facilitator. So it really works out very nicely, because if someone's theoretical, they need to think in a way that can really go out and capture everything. They can't think in a linear fashion and be able to express theory. It's not going to work. And it's nature's way of doing it. It really is amazing. So what they do is they gather information from different directions, different times in the past, present, and future. They put it all together. Artists are right here. Creative people that create all the time are right here. Okay? Now, when it comes to being with people, they might be a relationship type. They want to be in relationship with everyone they deal with, like a psychiatrist, psychologist. Maybe a professor would like to be get to know their students very, very well. It's very different than being a clerk in a grocery store. You'll connect to people, but very rapidly. But that's a good thing. You can imagine what would happen if you had somebody had a psychiatric attitude and wanted to sit and talk to every customer that walked through the line. It wouldn't work. Then, when it comes to action, now we got to get it out into the world, and there's going to be a process. So over here is holographic, which means it's like a let's say a wagon wheel, information coming in from all directions. That's how they learn. They always want to be in relationship with people. But in that relationship, they want to process the information. So here, it has no boundaries. You start having boundaries, more boundaries, and then you finally have a process. So what I'm giving you is a process right now. Okay? But it came from holographic way of viewing the world and how I've been in relationship with people. So there's a degree of empathy. But now, I could be wisdom, but then I might be technical knowledge. Down here would be all process or systems. That's all I understand. And that's why we get the idea of a nerd. They're very narrow. They only stand so much. And when it comes to the human interaction, they feel alienated because of this. If they were very tight in their way of thinking.
So that would be someone who would do well probably in a technical field.
Right.
Correct?
Yep.
And if they were in a job that forced them to do something different, they'd be very unhappy.
Yeah.
Right? If they had to be able to pull information, if they had to have a holographic process and pull information from everywhere rather than more linear, then they would probably be frustrated and unhappy. That's right. And not as successful.
That's right. And they'll never reach their potential.
Right.
Mm-hmm. So the holographic process facilitates this theoretical knowledge to come out in the world and express itself as driven by the theme of wisdom. And so these are just four. Now then you have, are they physical result? or abstract result. And that is a big difference. So when I'm speaking, I'm generating a physical result, meaning you hear the sound. That's language. Meaning, no. Meaning is the abstract. So the question is, what do I focus on? So where I derive the most pleasure is through the abstract. A painter can paint a room and either focus on the color scheme, how nice the paint flowed, or the abstract idea of the whole room and how walls are related to one to the other, and window placement, the design, and get very abstract. So in a relationship, if the husband is an abstract result person, he might call up his wife and say, let's go out to have a nice dinner. And that's the way he shows his affection for her. And she had gone to the cleaners and brought home his cleaning, and that's her way. But what happens is she never says anything I want her to say. That's not who she is. And she'll always complain, I never do anything around the house. Because she's looking for a physical result from me, and I'm looking for an abstract result from her. It's not going to happen. But once we know it's not going to happen, the world changes. Because now there's that acceptance again. And once you find this is what I call the authentic identity, the entirety of it. And every authentic identity has a consumer identity. Are they physical results? Are they abstract results? Are they expressing their authentic identity? What's going on in that when they consume things? Because what they're doing is they're buying a symbol and bringing that symbol into their life. It's going to conform to who they are. So if you know who they are, you know the symbol that they're going to draw in. That's what I used for 20 years, cold calling. Find out what their theme is and then follow suit. You can language anything you have toward that desire to complete the wisdom experience by the client. Very different.